Hello and welcome to Wrestle Talk with Arabbidb3aver. And joining me at this time, the man in the hot seat himself, the one they call the most insane, and he will kill you just for looking at him strange. It is Insane Dane. Insane Dane, how are you doing today, buddy?
Hey, I am excellent. Thank you so much for having me back.
Hey, you're so welcome. So we know that you've been on an extravagant journey trailblazing the world of professional wrestling and trying to hone your craft in better. So what should we start? Should we start at Santino Brothers?
Yeah, let's start from the beginning.
let's take it there. So we have lots of people who don't know you, don't know anything about you, and are going to be joining us for the first time today. So we know that you originally got started training with Santino Brothers. Take us back to how all that happened, how you decided to become a professional wrestler, and how you moved into Santino Brothers.
Yeah, most definitely. So I started back at Santino's in 2019. I found them through a Facebook ad where they're advertising professional wrestling. And I was like, well, if I try it and I suck, then great. And if I try it and I'm great at it, then even better. So I signed up and I did that. And I fractured my wrist, I want to say about 6 months in. And then right about the time I was supposed to come back, COVID hit. So that was my introduction to professional wrestling.
Oh, no. Well, we know that you've gotten better because we got to see you at Southern Pride Championship Wrestling just a little ways down the road. Talk about how you transitioned going from California, moving to Tennessee, trying to be trained and learning your craft, honing your craft here.
Yeah, most definitely. So pretty much from Santino's, I went out to Vegas because they were still running a little bit during COVID. And then I was there for a few years. And then I heard through Sinbodi, which is one of my coaches there, that Dr. Tom Pritchard was one of the best of the best. So I decided to go out to Tennessee and I did the course. I really enjoyed Tennessee and I still do. I consider it home. So I've moved out here permanently, and it's still where I reside. But right now, I've just been lately just spending my time in California as a deal with New Japan and stuff like that. But yeah, the journey to Tennessee pretty much is all because of Dr. Tom. Wasn't for Dr. Tom, I probably wouldn't even, moved here. So I blame him.
Well, and we know that while you were here, you did a lot of stuff with Southern Pride Championship Wrestling. You worked with Tennessee Championship Wrestling and so many more promotions that are out there in the world that we don't even know about. You just were all over the place. But you have since recently moved back to California, and you have been working in California at New Japan Pro Wrestling. You've been doing their advanced class. Talk about that a little bit, because we caught you kind of the last time you were here in the middle of that, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. So I went out to California to train at New Japan Wrestling Academy, and again I just did the course. So I started off with beginner's course because of Zane J, who was one of their star students, and pretty much he started from the ground up. He had no pro wrestling experience from before, and I was like, well, if it's a different style of wrestling, and it's not, it might have something different than what I would typically know from my own experience, then I want to learn it from the ground up. I don't want to jump into advanced and then try and catch up on techniques that I could have learned in beginners. Like, I want to kind of get the full experience. So I did the beginner's course, and that was 2024. And then after the beginner's course, there's a little break, and then we picked it up again in 2025. So I was coached the entire time by Fred Rosser, who used to be Darren Young, and WWE, and yeah, he had a huge impact in my life growing up because I always watched WWE. I watched a lot of Nexus and stuff like that. So to have that little circle moment and just tell him thank you, but also get to train under him and be guided by him has been such a cool experience.
Absolutely, it is, and a lot of people don't get to meet their role models in wrestling, and it seems like everywhere you've gone, you've got to meet somebody who's meant something or has been something to you in professional wrestling, and that's a really cool journey and a really cool experience to have in Insane Dane. One of the best things that happened to me was meeting Dr. Tom Pritchard. I remember it vividly, the day that we were in Florida. We were in Tampa, Florida, and he put out a little filler for somebody to do promo classes, is what he did. And I remember we walked in, and there was probably people who were better than me on the mic. Probably people that I know there were people that were better than me on the mic, but I didn't feel like I belonged in that class. And he said, son, he said, if you can talk, you're always going to have a job. And he said, I believe you can talk. And it just lit up my future and set me on the right path. And I know that it's really cool when you get to meet those people, because I know they considered him the Southern Roddy Piper. And if you ever bring it up to him, he will take offense to that. but they consider him a knockoff Roddy Piper. And man, for him to come out and just give us the wisdom and the guidance, especially I followed him from the Heavenly Body years. That's where I knew him from. And for him to say something that was so changing and life changing in my life, I know how cool that is. So for you to experience that with Darren Young, also experience it with Dr. Tom and so many others that you've had, that's a really cool thing, sir. We know that you are in or have started to finish that course, that advanced course that you're in right now. Have you looked to do any extra bookings out west? Has anybody contacted you?
Yeah. So right now I've pretty much put any potential offers on hold because I really wanted to embrace everything that New Japan had to offer for me. So I graduated last Thursday from the advanced class officially, but the Saturday before that we did our showcase. So for me, that was kind of always my focus was that I want to have the best showcase match possible. And so I really didn't take any bookings because of that. I just really wanted to be, focused on what the New Japan wrestling style is and what they're looking for, which is a little bit different than what traditional wrestling is. It's a little bit more, a little bit less, I would say, entertainment and more on the side of like wrestling. They want to see more of your natural wrestling skills and not so much character work, which for me being a big guy of character, I had to learn kind of how to drop back and to kind of show who I am, but through the more serious kind of wrestling style. And I just didn't really want to confuse myself by getting on the indies again and just kind of be like, oh, I'm back to my old habits. Really just want to be on my, cross my T's and dot my I's about all that. So now that I've graduated, pretty much my horizons are wide open. I've been in talks with Santino's about doing some of their shows because they run pretty much twice a month. And then I've been talking to just about anybody I can get in their ear from Tennessee to California and anywhere in between about just seeing what promotions are running and what shows I can get on to really spread my wings and kind of apply everything I've learned.
Well, you said something very important. You said that you had to learn how to hone yourself back and let your work in the ring talk versus being a showman and letting the show talk. How hard of a transition is that for you, somebody especially like you that we know you from the show?
Yeah, it was difficult. It was difficult because it wasn't so much they said hey, you can't do this, but if it was something that I brought up to them, hey, I do some stuff that's comedy or do some stuff that'll make people laugh, they're like, yeah, let's not do that on the showcase. Let's show you as the big guy. Let's show you as wrestling a bigger man style. And not so much the crazy stuff. So there's certain things that when the showcase debuts on YouTube, you'll see some stuff okay, I see a little bit of Insane Dane still in there, but it's definitely more of just making every little thing we do matter, making every move matter, and so much about New Japan when it comes to the Young Lions is that they are big on the basics. So the body slam or the hip toss or a Beal or going after a move like, let's say, a Boston Crab is such a big deal over there that if we do that in American wrestling, it's just Chris Jericho's move, whatever. But to them, it's hey, that move can, take the match home. If they get that in or if they get, a certain arm bar locked in, that's the whole match. So it's definitely different, but one thing Coach Ross would always tell us was he was our greatest ability is our adaptability. So we have to be able to adapt under any situation, any set of circumstances. And he's always said that from day one. So for me, it was a struggle, but it was also if I want to be adaptable, whether it goes from AEW, WWE, TNA, or even just New Japan style, I'll be able to adapt to whatever they need from me. And if that means drawing myself back or, learning a different style, I want to show that I can do that because at the end of the day, that's going to make me better, but it's also going to make me more versatile because I'll be able to adapt to different styles.
Well, it'll make you better with everybody you're in the ring with as well. And you mentioned something extremely important that doesn't get talked about enough, and that's no wasted motion, no wasted time. There's a lot of places that you go to, especially in independent wrestling, where there's a lot of wasted motion and a lot of wasted time. And it's not that it's hard to watch, but over time, it's just come on, let's get on with it. And when you don't have that wasted motion and you don't have the wasted time, it becomes a true match. It becomes something that people want to get involved with, and the story that you tell becomes viable to their life. And that's exactly how I know how to explain it. And it's a total difference in storytelling, as you were talking about, versus Southern style or Southern strong style versus New Japan Pro Wrestling or versus luchador style. And that was one of the biggest things when we got into professional wrestling. We were green. We didn't know our butts from our elbow. You know what I mean? So we thought it was just all the same thing, all WWE, everything that they put out. That's what we thought we were getting, was that style. And it wasn't. There was so much to learn, and so much, and we're still learning. We always are constantly learning. And that's the one thing that I really admire about you, is because you're not afraid to say, okay, I don't know everything and I need some help. And it's time for me to look and better myself. If I'm not getting the job done here, let's find out why, and then let's work on it. And so for you to step back from your character, step back from who you are and who we know you as, and to put you up in that pedestal, to see that your character is actually building with the story you're telling versus the gimmicks that you want to have, that's a huge thing for you, Dane. And I can see you excelling and going straight through the roof with it as you learn. And it comes back to who's teaching you and how they're teaching you and how they're wanting you to learn to wrestle, because you become more marketable with whoever you're in with the ring and whoever you're outside of the ring with, because you're able to tell the story on each front. And that's a big thing. That's a huge thing in wrestling. And I like I said, I admire you for wanting to better your craft and learning that craft. And there's so many doors that will open up just because of that. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're looking to book Insane Dane, this would be the man to book right here if you want him for any reason whatsoever. We're going to switch over to your Facebook page. I've got you right here. We've got you now accepting bookings right here for 2024, 2025. And it shows your resume there. You can see everything. And if you're wanting some clips, you can message him directly. He can get you some clips of his footage. Also, he has them on Instagram, and he also has them on his Facebook page, where you can see his promo work and also his in-ring abilities as well. So he would be a great one to book for you guys anytime that you have it, for any promoter that's out there watching. Dane, let's talk about the transition that it took for you. You talked about moving from in-ring characters and in-ring ability. You said something very important earlier. You said in the New Japan style, like a Boston Crab could be the move that makes the entire match. An armbar could be the move that makes an entire match. Is it because you believe that the fans are so engaged in that style of wrestling that those moves become the top moves? Or is it because here in America, we're spoiled and we get to see everything, and we're just like, oh, that's just another move that's not going to go anywhere?
Sure. This is going to come solely from my opinion, because although I trained in New Japan, I was there about 20 weeks, I still have way more to learn. Like Coach Ross always talks about, he's like, I didn't know if I could hang with the New Japan style until, I sat down and physically, like in person, I watched a match. And then, from there, I had to learn all about the style and stuff. So for me, I'm where he was. I'm still learning, the ins and the outs and the whys and everything. So solely from my opinion and what I've been learning, it seems to be that the fans, especially in Japan, appreciate more of just the wrestling. They appreciate the technical side. That if you go there and if you do a lot of flamboyant and character work, the way it was described to me, it doesn't get over the same as a wrestling move would. And I think that's just for the fact that, again, I don't want to talk out of my butt, but I think it's just for the fact that, they believe and they enjoy more of that style of just like the bell rings, let's get to the action, let's see you wrestle, like let's see, what we came to see. Like, and a lot of times, for matches and shows, you come to see shows for different reasons. And then obviously there's people in New Japan and people in Japanese wrestling that have done comedy. So it's not that it can't be done, but I think specifically for New Japan wrestling, they've built a name around the wrestling. They've been known for the wrestling. So when you see something like an armbar, which is, not blurring the lines, but, they do it in UFC. You can really break somebody's arm like that. They go, oh, hey, that could be the end of the match. Like that realism is still there. Whereas if you, in America, I would say WWE is more of the well-known style versus New Japan. People are more used to, okay, let's see the flashiness, let's see the flamboyance, let's see the, the flashy entrances. Let's see the pyro and all the craziness. Like they want to see a little bit more of that, and they don't look at it more from a side of like, oh, okay, well they did, an armbar. Oh gosh, in the match, like they want to see, oh this happened, that happened. Oh gosh, big finish. 1, 2, 3. Oh, and then they come alive for that. But also, if you just watch like Japanese wrestling, you'll notice the fans are quiet a lot of the times, and even when they do make noise, it's clapping. So it's just, to me, it's a total diverse style than what we're used to in America. But I think that may just be a cultural difference, where they kind of got conditioned and enjoyed, what they define as wrestling. In America, we have what we define as wrestling, but the beauty of both is that you can pick and choose whatever you like. I know plenty of my friends who enjoy New Japan, and I know plenty of them that enjoy WWE. So, just kind of finding what you like. But that's long story short.
In America, we're more of an entertainment aspect. We're here to entertain you. We want you to be entertained. And a lot of people have learned from Disney, you've only got 30 minutes in a lot of cases to keep somebody's attention span. After that 30-minute span, you're only going to catch about 22% of people that are actually at your event trying to watch it or maintain their focus on what's actually going on. And I think the difference is overseas, there is almost an 86% chance of people watching you after the 30-minute mark to find out what you're going to do and what you're made of. And it's because of what you said. It's the whole action aspect. Let's get into the action. Let's fight. Let's show everybody what we can do together and how we can do it together and how we can entertain together. But it's not entertainment to them. It is a way of life. And I think that's the difference. Is it's more of, like you said, a cultural aspect into being the way of life, versus ours is entertainment. And people, especially after 2008, 2009, somewhere right around in there, 2009, the cat was kind of left out of the bag here in America. And in Japan, it's still kind of in the bag. People really believe it to be true. They believe death matches are real. They believe it to be 100% real. And here people are just like, it's just another match. We've already seen it all. We've already done it all. And they've lost that. They've really lost the focus of the crowd based upon letting it out of the bag, letting kayfabe go. And that's my garbage take. It's my opinion. And I've lost a lot of friends over my opinion over the last couple of years. But the truth of it is the styles are so different that whenever you travel overseas, the domes are sold out. Like, yep. Even for house shows, the domes are sold out. And those people are wanting it. They want to see it. I mean, 2,000-3,000 people in a small little building crammed together, sitting side by side, and they're there to see it all. They're there to see it all. And here you might be lucky, like, to pull a house show or a small little indie show with 100 people. And that's really the difference. Is we've lost our focus and turned it into something it's not in America, to where they still have that aspect to where they can catch people and catch a crowd. And it's not because there's 3 or 4 million people in a small little area that they're pulling that in. It's the fact that those people really believe it. I mean, they have people that stand outside and get turned away from the shows because they've already reached capacity. And, we've got to get back to that here in America. That's really the entertainment aspect that we've got to get back to. Is we've got to make it believable again. And I don't know how you feel about that, but I'll let you answer. How do you feel about it?
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Gosh, I feel like there's so much I could say that just trying to find the right things to say is hard. For me, the way I view wrestling is that, to me, it's legitimate. You know what I mean? Like, like you said, the cat's already out of the bag, so there's really not much I can say that hasn't been said. That would really get me into hot water. But especially with like the shows, like we have like WWE. I want to say it's LFG right now, where, they're showing, matches being put together and the behind the scenes stuff. It's really hard to sit here and say everything's legitimate. It's real fight. But something that's always gets said by the vets is that, it's fixed, not fake. So do we know who the winner is at the end of the match? 9 out of 10 times, yeah. Sometimes no, to be honest. Like, sometimes go out there and we figure it out. But for the most part, yeah, we do know who's going to win the match. But there's also the legitimacy side of it that, like, I just went and got an MRI scan the other day because I have to check on my head. I have to make sure that all the concussions and all the falls that I'm taking and all the risks I'm taking in the ring is not being excuse me, pretty much it's not being reflected onto me. So I'm making sure that I'm in good shape, I'm in good health, because things do happen. I mean, we look at wrestlers like, forbidden to say, but like Chris Benoit, who just, his brain was just so traumatic at the end of the day.
I'm really glad that you mentioned this because nobody talks about it a lot. Nobody talks about him, or if they talk about him, they talk about him in the bad manner of
Right.
what happened. And we have to remember who he was in the ring first and foremost.
Sure.
Yes, that stuff happened. Yes, it was wrong. Yes, it was evil. But you have to see, how many bumps did the man take before it got to that point?
Right.
And how did he take care of himself? And did he tell people no when he should have? We don't know these answers. Well, we know some of them because of what happened. But I can't take anything away from him inside the ring. Any of his championships, any of his run with WCW, any of his run in New Japan Pro Wrestling, any of his run with Mexico. I can't take any of that away from him because of how good of an entertainer he was. And I catch a lot of heat for this. I've lost a lot of fans for this, for saying this. But if I had to choose one person that I knew was going to be there and I knew was going to do business, that was Chris Benoit.
Sure.
Chris Benoit meant it. And the work he did with Eddie Guerrero all around the world, 15 plus years worth, the work that he did, it never got unbelievable. And I think that that's what we're missing today. That's the amount of storytelling that we're missing today, the long-term storytelling that we're missing today that we've got to get back to. And how do we get back to it? We make it believable again. How do we make it believable again? We make stories that are viable. In Memphis, they used to have this sign that hang in the office, in Jerry Jarrett's office, and it said, real life problems make real life money. And that's really what it is your real life drama is going to be a moneymaker. It's going to be a real moneymaker for you, no matter what it is. And it doesn't matter if it's, I mean, my Lord, you look at some of the stuff that happened between Tommy Rich and Jerry Lawler. You look at some of the stuff that happened there, and you can actually see the personal aspect of it start taking place. And I'm using Memphis as an example. It happens everywhere. Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit was one of the biggest ones where it happened. Yeah, they were friends outside the ring, but they weren't always friends outside the ring. Sure. There was lots of stuff that happened in between both of their relationships and the relationship with Chris Benoit's wife at the time that took place, and nobody knows a lot of the ins and outs of everything that happened, but Eddie wasn't married all the time that he knew him, and there was a lot of stuff that happened there, and it caused a lot of problems. But after they got over that bump, they became friends. They became good friends. And so I can see from that aspect, like I said, I'm really glad that you brought Chris Benoit up, and one of the major reasons is because, yes, we know that he had injuries, we know that he had problems, and we know that he didn't take care of himself like you're taking care of yourself, like you're trying to watch after yourself. How do you prevent the accidents from happening? How do you prevent the head injuries from happening? What's the best way, in your opinion?
So the long story short is that there's no best way. Every time we step into the ring, every time we fall, we're essentially taking a fall that's the equivalent of a 30-mile-per-hour car crash every time. Like, there's just no way around it. If you go to a professional wrestling school that has reputable coaches, you're going to get taught the right way, how to fall, how to get hit, how to hit, all that good stuff. But there's marginal room for error, like doing something safe and doing something dangerous is about that far apart. And falling, like I just said, there's no way around it. Like, once you fall, you're taking that impact, your head's taking that wobble, and no matter how hard you tuck your chin to your chest, like, you're still taking those risks, and that far away from hitting the mat, but your brain's still getting rocked every time. So the only thing I can do, which I just speak from, self-experience, I just try and take care of myself. So I go to the chiropractor, I see, my primary doctor, I got a head scan for the first time in about 6 years, and I got a call today. It looks like I'm all clear. So to them, they don't see anything major. But it's still something that, like, I'm always self-conscious about every time before I get in the ring is, like, how am I going to keep myself safe? Because you can't rely on the other person as much as business is built on trust. You have to you have to safe proof everything for yourself, because if they're too tired, or they happen to drop you, or they slip or whatever, it's your life that you're putting in someone else's hands. So it's a lot. It's not a whole lot you can do, but Coach Ross always tells us, take care of our bodies, take care of your bodies, take care of your bodies, because you only get one body. So that's my best bet.
Well, accidents do happen. They happen all the time. They happen to everybody. And even the best of the best have accidents, and they have incidents that go on, and they take place. And it doesn't matter how much chemistry, like you said, that you have with somebody, because like you said, one day they might not get enough sleep, and one day they might be fatigued going into the ring, and they might have actions. When you fall at about 36 feet a second, which you said is about the equivalent of 30 miles per hour whenever you hit the ground. Your body takes that impact all over. It's not just your back. It's not just your neck. It's not just your hips. It's every piece of your body that you take whenever you flatten out. And over time, that can do a lot of damage to you. I mean, I know people, we can name them. Roddy Piper had 2 hip replacements. He had a shoulder replacement. Hulk Hogan's had 3 back surgeries that I know of, and since I've been watching wrestling. And Sting's had 2 rotator cuff replacements. He's had a back surgery. Just over time, your body wears out. And the thing I'm getting at is, how do you try to keep yourself from wearing out over time? How do you make sure that you have the longevity, and what are you doing to prevent things?
Yeah. Longevity for me is just thinking about what I'm doing before I do it. So if I go into a match and I say, well, I'm just going to take, every fall I possibly can, everything that gets pitched to me, I'm going to say yes. Then I put myself in like a very dangerous, bag of water there. Cause it's like, what I always look at matches like, what does this match really need? Because a lot of matches, they don't need a lot of falls. They don't need a lot of blood. They don't need a lot of chair strikes. They don't need a lot of contact even sometimes, right? A lot of matches need a story. And how you tell that story and how you go about telling that story can do more than just saying, well, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do every move that I know in my toolbox, and that's how I'm going to tell the story. Which it's fine and it's doable, but it also shortens a lot of careers that way.
Bobby Eaton said the exact same thing to me about 5 or 6 years ago. He said the exact same thing, almost word for word. He said, it's not about taking all the big bumps and putting yourself in all the risk. He said, it's about telling the story and telling it properly. And if you can tell the story and tell it properly, you might only have to do one big bump during the match and not have to worry about anything else. And he said, you'll get the crowd involved in it if you can tell the right story. And I think that's where we've got to go back, is telling the right story, getting the right story with the right people involved. And you can tell it with anybody. I think that's one of the things that WWE really does well. I've kind of crapped on them a lot here recently. I've kind of made some pretty good enemies up at the top. But one of the things that they do is they tell good stories, and they get the crowd involved in the storyline that they're telling. They might tell it a little bit too long. Like, I'll be the first one to tell you, I hated the bloodline after about the first 7 months. I hated it because it was just too drawn out for me. But they told the excellent long-term storytelling with it, and how they told it was proper. They did it the proper way and the right way. They kept and I know what they were doing is they were getting the money from all the territories that they were going to, all the areas that they were going to keep it alive. And then when it was the big show, the big payout, they flipped everything on everybody. And I know that's what was going on. And I know that they had to do it that way, because if they would have turned it in, let's say, Iowa at a little house show, nobody would have believed it anymore.
Sure.
So they kept it alive long enough to keep it going. And they're still going on with some of it, but I think that's one of the things that they do better than anybody else inside the arenas right now. TNA is really good, but man, they just don't have the storytelling that WWE has. And it's not necessarily a funding issue for me. It's more of who's in creative and who can write for you. And I think that that's a lot of it is we have a lot of great minds in the business that, and please don't take me wrong, Dane, please fans don't take me wrong when I say this, but there's a lot of people who are in the ring that don't need to be in the ring. They need to be in the back writing, because they are so much better writers and so much better producers and so much better cameramen than they could ever be inside. And they're living their dream. I get it. You're living your dream. You got one life to live. You got to go after it. But if you excel in a certain area, you're going to excel in that for life. You're not going to have anybody tell you, no, you can't do this. No, this isn't going to work. No, you might have some ideas that people go, I think that's a little bit too far, but we're going to make this work. And I think that's one of the things that WWE has excelled in is they found the people that can write the stories, and they stay writing those stories, and they keep on them until either A, they quit, or B, they retire, one of the two. And they do such a good job with it that they're head and shoulders almost above everybody else because of it. How do we get back to that, Dane? How do we get back to finding the right people for the right place at the right time?
Right. I mean, a lot of it's luck. Like, I think when we talk about the Bloodline story, a lot of that happened to be luck, right? Like, what if The Rock wasn't I'm not sure of the correct term, but like the CFO or whatever of, TKO. Like, what if that never happened? He may not have had the pull that he had to pull the strings that he did. What if The Rock was never born? Where would WWE be now? What if Cody was never born? I think a lot about that a lot, but even more so about musicians. Like, I think about the Sabrina Carpenters and the Billie Eilishes, and I'm like, what if they were just never born? Like, what would music be, or who would be popular, or what did they do different that got them to where they were? But also, what if that song never got it? What if that Post Malone song never made it to SoundCloud? He wouldn't be where he was now, have the success that he does now. But would he have found a different avenue? Possibly. So how do I tie that back to wrestling? Well, a lot of it's luck. A lot of it's just the right place at the right time with the right person. But more specifically on the independents is finding and listening and keeping your ears out for the right person. And I'm not one to like toot my own horn, but like you said, some people aren't, the best wrestlers, but they're better behind the scenes. I love wrestling and I love doing it. I don't know if I'm the best at it per se, but when it comes to storytelling, when it comes to putting a match together, when it comes to having creative ideas and putting a show together where it makes sense and can draw more people in, I feel that's where I shine even brighter than wrestling. Because even though I can come to the match with creative ideas and things that can make the crowd, feel one way or another, I feel like I can do even more as a whole by helping out everybody else. And for example, like this last TCW show that we did, I put in the group chat. I was like, hey, I'm coming off 20 weeks of New Japan. If anybody has any questions about wrestling, but more specifically New Japan, please come and ask me. Like, I'd love to be an open book of knowledge. But then also watching how the show went, I was like, man, I wish somebody would just look at me and be like, hey, this guy's been a little bit of everywhere. He's done a little bit of everything, and he wants to help out. He wants to give back. What if we just asked for a little bit of input? Or what if we just said, hey, with your match tonight, what about this or what about that? I feel like it would have made a lot better show, but it also would have drawn a lot more people in for the next show, and we could have grown that product even bigger.
Well, do you want short-term pop or long-term fans? Because you can have one, but you can't have the other. You got to figure out if you want short-term pop or if you want a long-term fan base. Long-term fan base pay out more. I'm just going to be honest with you. And, you have been all over. You've done all sorts of things, which kind of leads me to my next thing. You had a WWID tryout seminar with Gabe Sapolsky, right?
Right.
How did that go?
Crazy. It was a crazy week. We trained, Santino's in New Japan that week, and then that Saturday we had the showcase. And the showcase I felt was good, but I felt like I could have done a little bit better. And I was like very hard on myself that day. And then I went to sleep, and then I woke up. I was like, gosh, I got to do the WWE seminar tryout with Gabe. And I've done 2 before, so this one I felt confident going into it, but I felt less confident how the night went prior. So I was like, oh gosh, like this is my chance to really capitalize on my mistakes from yesterday. So the seminar was really good. What was different this time was instead of just saying, hey, we're looking at the indies, like, yeah, we're looking at the indies, but we also now have the ID program. He's back to running, gosh, I want to make sure I get it. I think it's like Evolve is what they're putting the ID on right now, right? Okay, I want to make sure. So I saw I keep forgetting what promotions are which because of with LFG and everything. But yeah, so he's back to running Evolve, so they're putting the ID people on there. He talked a little bit about that, and then we had matches. So matches with Gabe are usually about 3 minutes long. So when you talk about telling a story, you got 3
3 minutes. 3 minutes, baby.
And he want the, he doesn't want the gaga, he doesn't want the drawn out, he wants, just like Japan, he wants the action. So on my Instagram page, if anyone wants to check it out, _insane_Dane, I actually shared it because it was a match that I'm really proud of. It was a match that I had done, I want to say, a week or two before. And then our coach, Arabbidb3aver, was like, hey, great match. Here's what I would do. So going into this, I was like, hey, we're going to hit about the same time. But I was like, we need to kind of clean up what could have been better before. So we cleaned it all up, and we actually got the loudest reaction from the entire day in terms of tryout matches from the people that were watching. And then Gabe said it was a really great match, and that he really enjoyed it. So I felt like that was a very successful weekend.
That's a great successful weekend. I think I was talking to you about it earlier. I know that he and Brian Kendrick had a school at one point in time, and they were putting it together. And Brian Kendrick's trained a lot of people and helped out a lot of people. I know Gabe has done the same thing. He's helped a lot of people, helped train a lot of people, and try to keep everybody professional as can be. And to kind of get the nod from him, that's a big deal, whether you realize it or not. I mean, that's a huge deal inside the world of wrestling, because, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know when you're going to meet them, and you never know who's going to remember you at the right time. It might just be one of those things like, hey, I met a kid in California and I think he's got what it takes. I got to see him for a few minutes and he really impressed me. And that could be just the little bit it needs to get you the right tryout or the right spot that you need to go to wherever you need to go. And I know for a fact that coming up here in just a few days at the School of Morton, they're going to be doing tryouts for NWA and also TNA with Santino Marella and also Aaron Stevens. Carson Drake is going to be there. Papa Joe Kazana is going to be there as well. And like I said, you never know whenever you get that opportunity in that shot. April 5th and April 6th, both. You never know when you're going to get that opportunity when it arises, that you could be the next big thing, the next big star for somebody. And that would be a huge thing. So Dane, do you have any plans on being there?
Not this weekend. I have to fly back to California. We have a Santino show on Thursday. So just the timing and the dates didn't work out, unfortunately. But like you said, I definitely think it's one of those opportunities that you just can't miss. Like for those who are local or for those who have to travel, it's just one of those things that, especially if you're not doing anything else, if you haven't had a scouting, tryout, or you haven't done any of that, like that's the place to be. If I didn't have New Japan Showcase followed by Gabe Sapolsky, that would be my priority, was to be there. But because I had that, that's kind of where a majority of my focus went to, and money wise, that's where a lot of that was. So that just had to be like if I had one ticket, like I had to spend it there. But I definitely think when you have those opportunities, like that's when you got to kick the door down. Even if nothing comes from it, like you said, it doesn't hurt to be in front of 6, 8, 10 sets of eyes that goes, yeah, that person has something, or get some feedback that may alter the road that you're on, and essentially get you somewhere better a year from now. Like one piece of advice could really change somebody's career that they just don't realize.
It's really important that you said that, because I think a lot of times we miss the feedback. We are harder on ourselves than we are anybody else. And let's say you go to one of these trials. It doesn't matter where it's at. It could be anywhere in the world of wrestling. You go to any of these tryouts. The one thing that you should always be looking for is feedback. Okay, well, you might have been a little bit slow on the ropes, or you didn't turn in time, or you didn't do this. Let's work on that, so the next time that you go in front of somebody, you have everything that you need, and you've worked on everything that was a weakness for you. The reason that people basically claim Michael Jordan is the GOAT in basketball is because in college he had weaknesses, but when he got to the pros, he worked on it so much there was no deficiency in him. And it's the same thing for wrestling. If you work on your ability, this goes back to what I said earlier about people that really have a good talent to be behind the screen. It doesn't matter where you start or where you're at. If you know that you want to be inside the ring and you're going to be inside that ring a long time, you work on your craft. You work on it so much that you become the perfect wrestler. And that's why I said I really applaud you for doing that, especially going from school to school to school, trying to make sure your craft is honed to the perfect ability. So when you get that chance and that opportunity to get before somebody, you will have the opportunity golden. You'll take it everywhere it needs to go and do everything you need to do to impress those in, like you said, a 2-minute or a 3-minute match. And sometimes that's all you get, as a 2-minute or a 3-minute match, like you said, and you know that firsthand. Moving forward, though, Dane, I know that you had some bookings here that are coming up recently for Tennessee Championship Wrestling, Southern Pride Championship Wrestling. And is there anywhere else that you're going to be in the Tennessee area before you have to go back?
So I go back on Wednesday. So I don't have anything, and I don't have anything in between there. But the soonest I'll be back will be May 10th. While I kind of do some stuff in California. So May 10th, I'll be with Southern Pride Championship Wrestling, which a lot of fans have been asking about. So that's the big return date is May 10th. Following that, we've got Tennessee Championship Wrestling. I know we're doing a barbecue fest, which is that following Wednesday. And then that Friday, me and Premier Pro Wrestling are going to be teaming back up together. So we'll be back at Premier Pro Wrestling that Friday. And then following that is Tennessee Championship Wrestling in Dixon, Tennessee. So got a whole lot going on there, and I'm in talks with a lot of different promotions around Tennessee as well. So once that loop wraps up, we'll be looking at what the next loop looks like and working for different promotions and stuff like that. Yeah.
Awesome. That'll be really good. I mean, we'll love to see you out there. So you guys caught that from May 10th forward is when he's going to be back in Tennessee, and he's going to be making his loop, Southern Pride Championship Wrestling, Premier Pro Wrestling, and also Tennessee Championship Wrestling. So you guys can catch him any given weekend on those once he comes back in May 10th. Insane Dane, any advice for anybody watching out there? Anything that you'd like to say to them?
Yeah. If you're a fan, please keep supporting pro wrestling, because you guys are literally the bloodline, and no pun intended, but you're the bloodline for what keeps wrestling alive. I mean, we're all fans at the end of the day and at heart, but if we don't have any fans that are paying a ticket to come see us, we're just wrestling for ourselves. So please definitely keep showing up. If merchandise is your thing, please support the independent wrestlers that work really hard to buy merch and have quality merch. So definitely help out with that where you can. And if you're a wrestler, I always say find a reputable wrestling school if that's what you want to do. Don't be afraid to travel. Go to different wrestling schools, even if you just drop in for a day or two. Be a sponge for knowledge. Don't be afraid to ask questions, especially if you're on the independents, and especially if there's somebody that maybe you don't feel is better than you. But like for me, I would say I'm more well traveled than most. So there's nothing wrong with being like, I don't know if that guy's better than me, but I just want to watch a match and just get feedback, because not always will feedback apply to you. But what if I say something again that improves your match to where maybe you had an okay match and next time you have a better match and you end up selling more merch, you draw more fans, and therefore you get paid more at the end of the day. So especially right now, because I do assistant coaching with beginners at Santino Bros. So much of my passion for coaching and giving feedback and helping people grow is being used at a well-known wrestling school that wouldn't have done that for me if they didn't think I had the chops to be up there alongside an Eli Everfly or an El Primo Henyo or a Slice Boogie, and especially if they didn't see the passion in me. Like, I'm so passionate for helping people and giving feedback and seeing that light bulb click for people where they're just like, man, I started wrestling 3 weeks ago, but I'm so much better today. I'm like, thank you. Thank you. Because that's what I love to see. I love to see the confidence. I love to see the energy. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask feedback. That's all my main points.
And you have merchandise, but it's available at the shows only. Is that correct? What do you got? How much is it?
Yeah, so I have merchandise at the shows. I also ship it. So for those that, don't always are able to get it at the show, you can always message me and we can talk about shipping and such. But I do have 2 different designs for t-shirts. I have one design which is $20. No, I'm sorry, they're both $25. If you do both, they're $45. And then I have stickers, I have keychains, I have pictures, and everything in between. So I got a little bit of everything.
We do too. And I want to let you guys know this is something that's very important in professional wrestling, especially if you're just starting out and you've just got your merchandise and you're going to these shows and you're not selling anything. Don't give up. Stay at the tables, put your merchandise out there, get your name out there. It doesn't matter if you don't make anything for 6 months or a year. You keep going to those tables, because eventually what's going to happen is you're going to build a fan base and they're going to want your merchandise. So it may not look like you're selling anything today, but you might go to a show and you might sell $3,000 worth of merchandise. Speaking from experience, I'm just telling you. So I went about a year and a half without selling any merchandise whatsoever, went to a show, sold about $3,000 worth of merchandise at one show, and it paid for that entire year that I didn't sell anything. So don't give up. Show up, be out there, meet your fans. If you're a heel, it doesn't matter. Get your butt at the table and be the best heel you can be at that table, because somebody will still buy your merchandise, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. So that's my advice to each and every one of you guys are out there. Wrestling schools, we talked about this a little bit last time. Who would you recommend and why?
Yeah, so all the schools that I go to, I recommend, because I've never went to a wrestling school that I felt didn't meet like a certain criteria, right? Like I've always wanted to go to the best pro wrestling schools. That's why I usually spend about like 2 years or so per pro wrestling school that I do. And then from there, I just kind of gauge what I want to do after that. So Santino Bros Wrestling Academy, which is in Bell Gardens, California. There's too many bells in California. Taco Bell, but no. Bell Gardens, California is Santino Bros. Highly recommend. They have a beginner's course that takes you all the way through semi-pro, and then you can eventually debut. Future Stars of Wrestling in Las Vegas. There is the Jacobs Pritchard Wrestling Academy, which is here in Tennessee, and Lafayette, Tennessee. And then you also have, I feel like I'm missing one, Santino Bros. Oh, hi, New Japan.
You missed this one. New Japan Pro Wrestling Academy. And look right here. You're right on the main page of their Instagram. You got the big picture right there in the back corner right there. And if you scroll down, you're down here just right below it as well. You've got some pictures right there from New Japan. That's a really great honor to be on their page, Dane. I can't tell you how big that is for you, and how big that is for the school, and how big that is for the academy. It's a great thing. Tell us about the people in the picture right here with you.
Yeah, so right there you have the advanced class. So on the far left in white, you have Alan Breeze. Right below that, you've got Johnny Robbie. Yep, and then right there, you've got on the together, the guy on the left and the guy on the right, they're Live Danger. So you got Livewire Charlie and Danger Ross. And then in the back, you have Steven Stenson from New Jersey, followed by Coach Fred, and then followed by me. So that was our advanced class for a majority of this last class. And then the second picture down there is the beginners class. So I was very fortunate that they asked me after the showcase to come through to the beginners class and pretty much give them a showcase match. So they put us in the main event. So right there is featured the beginners class, and then in like the maroon right at the bottom is the DKC. So he's the beginners class coach for the New Japan Wrestling Academy. He was also originally from Santino Bros. So it was a pleasure just to be there and be alongside him during that.
That's awesome. And what a transfer that is, because you already met him somewhere else, and then you transfer somewhere else and he's there for you. That's a very comforting feeling, knowing that you've got somebody that you already know there, that way you're not having to start all over from scratch and break out of your shell.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. When I walked in the beginning of class first, I saw DKC. I was like, okay, we're in good hands.
Absolutely. Now, Insane Dane, we're just about out of time here for today. You mentioned that New Japan Pro Wrestling, all that. I have to mention two more that I'd like to get out, and that's Net Pro Studios LLC in Tennessee, up in Kingsport, Tennessee. Danny Jones and the boys up there do a great job with training. And then I also have to mention the School of Morton. Kinsey Page and Casey Kazana are the trainers, the head trainers there for the male and female classes, and they do an awesome job at the School of Morton. So if you guys are interested in becoming a professional wrestler, wherever you're at, East Coast, West Coast, you have lots of opportunities that are available. Give one of these guys a call today. Make sure that you're getting involved in a great professional wrestling school with great heritage, great students and great teachers, and the ability for you to move on and move up and ask questions. That's one of the biggest things is, you know, when we got started, Harley Race was the man that got us started. I told you this the last time we were in television, and he wanted to be on in Chattanooga. He actually came down, and we were the deciding vote for him to be on at 2:00 in the morning. And he paid an insane amount of money to be put on at 2:00 in the morning in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And man, he invited us to come to Missouri. We started going to Missouri. We started having a good time with him. And we did everything. We cleaned toilets. We set out chairs. Sometimes he asked us to help with the ring, whatever it may be, carrying boards, putting the ropes up, taking the ropes down. Whatever he asked us to do, we tried to help him, selling concessions. I mean, we did everything that we could for him. And, you know, I wouldn't take any of it back for the world. I mean, there were some times where I got my butt chewed, and there were some times where I really deserved it because I was stupid. You know, some people are just need a learning curve and they need somebody to teach them and teach them the way that it goes. But I'm very grateful. I wouldn't take any of it back from the world now. Get involved with somebody who knows the business and knows that side and knows how to help you grow inside the business. And that's what these schools do. The ones that are reputable, they know what they're doing. New Japan Pro Wrestling, Tantino Bros, the School of Morton. You've got Jacob Pritchard's Wrestling Academy, and you've got so many that are out there. Get involved with one of these that have the clout behind their name that can help you get to the next level, teach you how to be television ready, teach you how to work your promos, make sure that you know how to do drama, because it's very important that you're dramatic sometimes, you know, and you know how to sell stuff. Get involved with somebody like that, because that's going to be the difference in you sitting here and sitting here. And never stop learning. Would that be fair to say, Insane Dane?
Yeah, spot on.
Mr. Dane, would you like to say anything to anybody else watching before we go?
Gosh. Yeah, I think we hit all the big ones, mentioned all the schools and all the great coaches that we have there. And as always, thank you to you. This is a great platform to come in here and just, chop it up a little bit. And yeah, lots happened since we last talked, and I'm sure by next time we talk, a lot more is going to happen. So I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Would you like to come back sometime?
Oh, please. We're going on 3 now, so gotta keep it going.
Absolutely. We'll get you scheduled in. Right after the show. Thank you so much for being here. And before we go, guys, I've mentioned it earlier. There's some seminars that's going to be taking place at the School of Morton this week, April 5th and April 6th. You can get your tickets right now through ticketleap.com. You can get front row seat tickets for the 6th and also general admission tickets from ticketleap.com. If you'll give me a second, I'll get that QR code up for you guys, and you will get to see it from the School of Morton right there. If you go ahead and scan that QR code, it will be available to you. You can get your tickets there. If you're interested in getting involved with the Santino Marella seminar that's going to be taking place, scan this QR code, give them a call today. Go to the School of Morton, give them a call today, theschoolofmorton.com, altogether, theschoolofmorton.com. Give them a call today, get on their website, get in touch with them, let them know you're interested. It's $100 per person to do the seminar. I need to tell you guys that up front. Seating will be varied for the actual Legacy show that's going to be taking place April 6th, but you have the opportunity to get in front of a lot of big eyes for the NWA, for TNA, and you will be able to have feedback given to you, and you will also be able to grow from the seminar. Everybody can learn something, whether you're in production, whether you're a cameraman, whether you're out there at the booth. You can learn something from these guys that have been there and done that. Please give that out today. Also, we've got our Buzzsprout Power Slam members. If you want to become a Power Slam member, go ahead and scan that QR code for as little as $3 a month. You can support our channel, support our podcast, and help us grow. We would love to have you do that. And in return, you get a volume of 6 seasons full of Wrestle Talk with Arabbidb3aver radio style, and you all can listen to those as much as you want or as little as you want. Without being a Power Slam member, you only get season 6 currently is what you are involved in. So you do get the first 6 seasons for free, plus the additional for $3 a month. You can do that for us. Please go ahead and do that today. And finally, if you guys would like our merchandise, I have merchandise available for you as well. If you scan this QR code right here, you can get your merch today at www.streamlabs.com/Arabbidb3aver. That's ARABBID, the number 3, AVER/merch. It'll take you directly to it. You can get one of these beautiful polos like I got today. You can also get our t-shirts. You can get our Camel Toe Adventures music merch. You can get our Op and Fox music merch there as well. Go ahead and get you some of that good stuff. And also our Dirty Little 9 as you see right there in the picture. The Dirty Little 9 is there for all of our gaming and live streaming availability for you. Thank you guys so much for this. Insane Dane, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you. And if there's anybody out there that's watching that is wondering, you too can be a professional wrestler, and you guys heard it right here first with Wrestle Talk with Arabbidb3aver. Thank you guys so much. You all have a wonderful evening.
All right, take care. See ya.
Bye, guys.